What is up? It's your boy the Canologist. We're doing another episode of Code Study Sesh on OSRS AFK. We're just working our way through the stack of these steel bars. I brought 8,000 for 3 mils, so by the end of this I should have around 6 or 7 mil worth. It is a double money method, but it is slower unless you get a double ammo cannon mold where you just do 2 bars at once. Even then though, like, I wouldn't do that just because it doesn't really benefit the plan that I have. Like, if you want to train smithing quickly, like, you're better off just doing that one where you go to the dwarf's underground thing and then just do gold bars. Check out my new mug. I got this mug for $5. That was the best impulse buy of the year. And I got a stone plate. That way, because like I'm very minimalist, so I don't like using lots of dishes. So I get like a general purpose dish that acts as a bowl / plate. So that way I can put soup in it, or I could just use it as a normal bowl. And it's got the surface area to like put enough food on there. So that's just my take on it. We were debugging this code before. We had to put it outside of the main function, and this is purely there to handle the routes. Like, I could even structure your code is looking much better now that you've moved the API config and its methods outside of main. That's a big step. However, there are a couple of things. API config initialization in main. Oh, we make a reference to API config. You need to initialize this API config here. This creates the new and empty API config structure. When you apply your middleware, you haven't actually created an instance of API config yet. You need to declare and initialize it in your main before you use it. I see. That makes sense, because this is the API config structure, but I need to instantiate the object, and I need to make a reference to the actual API config here, so that way I could have access to all its methods and its properties. So this is one thing. This is very much like C++ if you really strip it down to bare bones. I make a reference to API config, the struct, and then I have to actually call it that. That way now this goes away. Middleware metrics now is a pointer to API. Still one that needs a little love. Remember, the middleware function's job is to take an HTTP handler, the next handler, and return a new handler that wraps the original. Okay, so it takes the next handler, returning a next new handler that it needs to return a HTTP handler function that encapsulates the logic increments the catcher and then calls next serve HTTP, pass the request along. If you want to increment the count, which is what I'm doing, increment the count, then let the original handler next do its job. Okay, so then I want to return, and there should be a new handler. Oh, what happened here? Why did I log out? So many things to keep track of, but like this kind of keeps my mind alert. Also gonna have to crush some eggs too to meet my quota. I saw blisterwood for some reason. Where is that? Yeah, you can't sell them. You can only cut them at a certain level. Super combat. Needs to return a handler function that encapsulates all the logic you want to run. So that'd be next HTTP serve. To pass the request along. Func next handler. Next handler HTTP. You've correctly identified the middleware logic, so it's going to be func API config and then new handler or next handler. There's a few things hiding here. Response. It doesn't need API config, okay. So I guess I just run it as is, anonymously. Typically doesn't need a name. Okay. So here I'm making it anonymous. I guess this would be, there's reset, handle middleware, file server hits, status okay. HTTP handler function. Then I go func. Okay. And then we register the handlers here, API config. API CFG. API CFG, API CFG, API config. Now this is an instance of this. You've successfully woven together all the pieces of spell codes looking good. You've nailed the code. There's just one tiny detail that needs a flick. Let's look at the main function. You've defined your middleware function, middleware metrics. Oh, it's a different name. Missing method serve HTTP. Handler reset, handler metrics, middleware metrics. Do I have an error? Let's try clearing. See a problem in the code. HTTP handler function. Handle metrics. Handler function. Handler metrics. HTTP handler function. Oh, we have to pass it through. So HTTP handler function. It needs to be wrapped. Okay, that should work technically. This is incredibly bitter. I think I need to clean my Keurig with whatever solution that has. But let's see. With the 18-minute mark. So now if we clear this, this should run. And then it should be reset app metrics. What increments the code? What causes the increment? So if you go here, 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 where's the increment? Metrics increment, file server hits, atomic struct, file server hits, handle response writer, metrics, response writer, handle reset, handle metrics, file server hits load, file server hits add one. File server hits. Welcome to Chirpy. Boom, boom. Okay, cool. File server hits. Hit 7. Cool. Run hits 4. Got everything. That should work now. Passed. Okay. So now you can go to the next handler, middleware, and that's just where you wrap around your request. I will continue that in the next video, so stay tuned. Peace.